To nature recovery mapping for Herefordshire businesses. My name is Rosie Wilmot. I'm an officer in the Sustainability and Climate Change team. Just facilitating the session today. The Sustainability and Climate Change team don't deliver on the local nature recovery strategy. We'll be hearing from the team that do deliver on the local nature recovery strategy. Most of them are here to answer your questions today. In terms of questions, if you do have any, please just pop them in the chat as we go along. As they come to you, please just type them out and we'll have time, as I've mentioned, to address all of that at the end. And for those that are just joining us, we'll be sharing the recording and the slides and a summary of the questions that have been answered. For any that don't get answered today, we'll be keeping the local nature recovery strategy webpage up to date, giving updates, and we'll be looking to include a frequently asked questions section in the near future as well. So we'll steer you towards that, and we'll include a link to that in the session today, but also in any follow-up emails. The team delivering on the local nature recovery strategy that are here today will take us through our agenda items. Charlie, if you don't mind just moving on to the next slide, and we can just sort of see the summary of what we'll go through today. Thank you. So we'll look at why there is a need for a local nature recovery strategy, how that's being achieved, where we're up to in Herefordshire with the local nature recovery strategy so far. We'll have a chance to look at the map that's been developed, and Charlie will take us through a short demonstration, and we'll also be looking at the end at the relevance to businesses, how you might be able to contribute, how the local nature recovery strategy might affect you, and how you might be able to help achieve that once it's fully developed. There'll be about 30 to 40 minutes of presentation time, leaving us a good 20 minutes at the end to go through any questions. And I'll hand over now to Liz Dubley, who's the lead officer on the local nature recovery strategy, and she'll take us through from here. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you, Rosie. So afternoon, everyone, and I just want to start by saying thank you for taking the time to join us this afternoon to hear more about the local nature recovery strategy. So I'm Liz Dubley, and my role is nutrient mitigation lead, but having previously built a natural environment service manager, I have also retained oversight of the nature recovery work that we're doing. And just to kind of set out a little bit of the background, although I'm sure Charlie will tell you more, Herefordshire Council was asked by DEFRA or invited to take up the role of responsible authority for delivery of the strategy in autumn 2023. And whilst we act as a responsible authority, it's very much a partnership piece of work. So we have a steering group that comprises different sectors that all participate and take the kind of governing decisions around the direction that the strategy takes. So internally, it's a very small team. It's myself, it's Emma Gardner from the Biological Records Centre, and it's Charlie, who is our Nature Recovery Officer. So I think that leads me into introducing you, Charlie, to run us through the work we've done to date. Thank you.
Hi, so my name is Charlie Affandari, so I'm the Local Nature Recovery Officer for Herefordshire. So just to start us off, so hang on. So what is the local nature recovery strategy? So a local nature recovery strategy is for Herefordshire is one of 48 different strategies that are being created throughout England. There are 48 different authorities. There are roughly one per county, but it does vary a little bit depending on where you are. The LNRS was originally created from the Environment Act of 2021 with the Department of the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs deciding that for nature recovery to best take place within England, each area needed a more bespoke approach to how best to engage with nature recovery. So they sent out to each of the 48 different responsible authorities to get that more bespoke list of actions and measures and mapping that would all then be able to come together and to be able to create a map that covers all of England. So the need for LNRS occurred after the Making Space for Nature report that was created by Sir John Lawton in 2010. From this report, what he found out was that of our existing core habitats within England, in order for us to be able to see nature recovery engage in the best possible way, each of these core sites We need more of them. They need to be bigger. They need to be of a much higher quality, and they then need to be more joined up using either using corridors or stepping stones to allow nature to be able to flow through those spaces. And this is what we are aiming to achieve with the LNRS. It's also a key way that the government is looking to achieve its 30 by 30 aims. So that's 30% of coastlines and land to be returned to nature by 2030. So going into a bit more of the process around the local nature recovery strategy, this is a bit of a guideline of how we're going about creating the strategy. So initially we have gone and mapped, there was the process of mapping any areas that are of existing particular importance. So we're looking at anywhere that is a local nature reserve, wildlife sites, and irreplaceable habitats such as ancient trees. These were all generated from data sets that were held by the Biological Record Centre and used to create a map that encompasses Herefordshire of what we currently have. These have then been used as a key way to then create the basis of a lot of the other work that's been going on. So then looking at step 3, so looking at the forming more of the written component of the strategy, so more of a description of what we currently have, then looking also at the opportunities there. Then going out to wider partners as well, and local experts about finding out from them what are the priorities that we need for nature recovery to really take place and really have an effect within Herefordshire, and then having them provide us with a list of potential measures of how we could then look at achieving those priorities. And then linking back to the map, we're then going to take those potential measures, find out from that, looking at the areas of potential opportunity for nature recovery, and then map those potential measures to those areas, so that eventually we will have a local habitat map that you'll be able to go to identify, seeing, okay, these are the areas of opportunity, be able to click on the map and then see the list of measures that are recommended to best embody nature recovery in that area, along with the written, more of a written document to goes over both the description of the strategy area and a much longer list of those priorities and measures. And all of that together will eventually become the local nature recovery strategy. So as it currently stands, the area that we are at the moment is currently about halfway between steps 4 and 5. We have a baseline map, but we're just looking at ground truthing that at the moment, along with finalising our list of priorities and measures. Let's move along the same. So yeah, today we're going to be primarily focusing on the mapping of our opportunities. So this process was undertaken for us by Gloucestershire Wildlife Trust. So they have done the mapping for Gloucestershire, Worcestershire, and Herefordshire, sorry. So when it comes to it, a key element of the LNRS on a national basis is that we want all of these maps to be able to fit together, so they flow, and so that when you get to a county border, there isn't a hard border of, say, Worcestershire recommending we do a load of woodland planting. We want to make sure that we are also linking with that to make sure that we're suddenly, when it gets to the border, it's not a sheer cut off and we're now recommending that there be lots of wetland. We want this to be a continuous flowing map, and having Gloucestershire create the baseline of a lot of this mapping has been a really key element of that. So the map that we received from Gloucestershire primarily shows our existing core habitats, then any opportunities layers that have been built out from that, and layers of traditional orchards as well. From prior analysis, we found the three key habitat types for nature recovery within Herefordshire are woodland, open habitat, so looking at areas like grassland, floodplain meadows, anything anywhere like that, and then any wetland opportunities as well. This is all currently purely data driven. So these data sets have come both locally and nationally. So looking at either phase 1 habitat surveys from any ecological records that we've had from the Biological Record Centre, but also those more national data sets. So looking at ancient tree inventories and other areas such as that. And then we've used lowest cost distance analysis that has been used to produce the map as well. Ooh, hang on. There we go. So just really flicking back up. So this is our baseline map. So this is the map that contains only what we currently have in Herefordshire. So this is our wildlife sites areas of natural concern and triple SIs as well, so sites of special scientific interest. From looking at this map, you can see there are some clear areas where we have a lot more nature than others. So notably, the waterways are a strong area. That also looking at the north and west of the county are currently areas of high connectivity and have good areas of existing nature within them. So this provides us a good starting point to be able to look at where we'd be able to produce any corridors or stepping stones with our opportunities to be able to get it all linked together a bit more. So then if we have a look at our current form of the opportunities map. So this is our initial draft of the opportunities. So it is currently quite full. As I said, the map is currently showing areas of existing core habitats, wetland opportunities, traditional orchards, then different priority levels for those three key habitat types. So open, woodland, and then areas that when we've done the data analysis that has come out as open habitats and woodland have been at the same layer of priority. So it comes down. So when it comes down to it, the landowner would then have the opportunity to choose which of those they would rather do on their land, if they so choose to engage with the local nature recovery. Excuse me. Yeah, so essentially this is the map that we have generated. I will say this is what we are looking to do at the moment is that this is our first draft. We're looking to get some ground truthing on the go. As I said, this has all been generated from data that has been held by data sets. So we're really looking for areas and people throughout Herefordshire to have a look at our map and say to ensure that this data is correct. There are some areas that the data could have some holes in it. We are aware of that, but that is what we are coming to you today to try and find out, to make sure that if you have a look at land that you know well, if you see that there is something wrong, we do have an online survey. We will have a link for you to be able to fill that in and just to give us feedback on that as well. So as I said, if there is as I said, the data could have holes in it. It is something that we are aware of. Some of the things that might come up from when you're having a look through the map is that the core habitat designation might not be right. It might not be. It might be saying that there's a woodland there, but it might have undergone some development. It could happen. Equally, designations might not be correct. There's also elements of areas of opportunity might not be feasible. Some areas might be being identified as having a great opportunity for an open habitat, but due to either the steepness of the bank or if you know that there is other work that's being done there, it may no longer be suitable. We are also having, I've heard from the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs that we need to have 40% of our land be covered by the opportunity layer. Currently, we're around 58%, so we are looking at reprioritizing some of this work as well. So while this map is our current version, it is definitely going to change in the future. So getting feedback on what is accurate there now will really help us being able to make sure that when we do those refinements to the map, that it's going to be as accurate as possible. So we want as much local knowledge from people who are out on the land and know that land as well as possible to make sure we're getting as accurate data as possible. So what can this mean for you? So as part of the LNRS, we are looking to anyone who owns land or manages land throughout Herefordshire. It can have an impact to you. So it could be that if you're looking at gaining, if you're looking to develop some land potentially, LNRS can be a good tool to help you with that. So if you do any biodiversity net gain work that falls within the LNRS opportunities layers, once it's been published, you would then be eligible for a 15% biodiversity, so BNG uplift, as to what will previously be there. So it can be a nice incentive to try and help and to try and go with this. Fundamentally, the LNRS is entirely voluntary. There is not a mandatory, there's no mandatory legislation behind it. It is purely there as opportunities and incentives. But if you decide that, if you looked at the map and decide that actually what the recommendations are for my land, I don't think it's right, there is no mandatory way. It is not mandatory that you engage with those. It is entirely voluntary as well. It is highly likely that it will link to other areas such as elms and other such land use frameworks, but more probably to feed in at a as a suggestion level. Right, I shall. Oh, that's. Hang on. There we go. So regarding the next steps for the Herefordshire LNRS, where are we looking to go? So primarily, especially regarding our mapping, is we're looking to get as much feedback as possible, whether that be from business owners and schools such as yourselves. We're also looking and working quite closely with the rural community, working with farmers and landowners as well, to get as much feedback on our mapping to make sure it is as accurate and as usable as possible. With this, it's going to be primarily through our online survey that we have live at the moment, that we're looking to sort of then start collating that data sort of towards early May, late April time. Once we have all of that data, we'll then look at amending the map. To then make sure that from all the data that we've gathered, from both all the existing data sets we have and from what we've received back from yourselves, that our map is as accurate as possible. We'll then look at making sure that those priorities and measures are embedded within the map to make sure that the map then is a usable tool. So if you did want to engage and take part in some of the nature recovery measures that could be on your land, you'll be able to see what the best possible way of doing that is, that we've gained from the information we've gained from the local experts. And also we're looking at linking our map with the neighbouring counties of Shropshire, Gloucestershire and Worcestershire. As I said, this is a national strategy, and we do want our map to be able to work as part of a whole with our neighbouring counties as well. Ooh. So, best way that you can assist with this process is by getting involved with the feedback for the mapping now. Once the LNRS is published, it will be fixed and it will be stay in place for the next 3 to 8 years. Once that's happened, we won't be able to amend it until we hear from DEFRA and the central government that they want to begin this process again. So if there is something that is you maybe don't like or don't think it could be done slightly better, now is your time to give feedback on that so that we can take that away and be able to assess it, because once it is published, we won't be able to do that. As I said, the best way to do that is to do that via the survey on our LNRS page. So we do provide updates on our page, and there is more information about the LNRS generally on that page as well. But equally more broad, even outside of just the data you can provide us, any information regarding the map itself, in terms of if you think of its appearance, any comments you have on it, any other issues, and any other data sets in general you think would be beneficial. Those are also the sort of comments we're looking to receive, as we want to make this as good and as usable for the wider public and to everyone as much as possible. So the map is accessible via our webpage on the council website. So if you just type in LNRS or Local Nature Recovery Strategy Herefordshire into Google, you will be taken to this page here, which will give you a little bit of background about where we are, a bit more detail about some of the areas of the LNRS. Then on the second page is where you will find our map. There is a link to a webinar that we held for parish councils previously, a bit more detailed information about how the mapping was created as well, and then you have the map itself. So you are able to toggle off all the different layers that you have here. So on the presentation, that was the map with all the layers on. So if I just quickly flick a few of them on, you have good amount of flexibility to be able to see what is generated, and you can zoom in as much as possible. There is a search function as well to be able to use it. So either key areas or postcodes, and it'll take you to that point. Equally, just to make sure for ground truthing, you can also turn on a satellite map view instead of the OS map, so you'll be able to really see a more a better view of what is there. There are some slight issues with the colors clashing a little bit, but we are looking to refine that in a later version of the map. Moving up slightly, there is a link to our mapping server here, or if you prefer, there is also a QR code that will take you to the same survey. Within the survey, essentially, it is just a quick tick box of why you're filling out the survey today, or what the data is for. You have then the map as well. It is done by points data. So again, if you have found, like, for example, one of the core habitats you believe to be wrong, if you just zoom in or again search for the core habitat, it will then find it, click on the point, scroll down, so it's saved, scroll down a bit further, and then just pop in a bit of text about about more of the detail of why why you wish to highlight this to us. If there is an element of something you believe on the map that should be changed, you will need to provide us with a little bit of evidence for that. As this map has been generated from existing data, we need further data in order to amend that. Whether that can be either like a landscape map, a photo of of confirming of what is on the map is no longer what it says it is, and then just pop it in a file here. Equally, excuse me. The form is completely anonymous. You will not be asked to provide anything. However, if you are providing data, I would request that you do add a little bit of context information here, just in case some of the data you provide, maybe we might need a little bit more or a little bit of clarification on it. And if we don't have your contact information, we won't be able to reach out to you to clarify that, and we therefore may not be able to include it. But then that is everything on the survey itself. And if I just back. But that is our current state of opportunities mapping and our survey. So are there any questions?
Great. Yeah, just a reminder, folks, that if you have any questions, please just pop them into the chat and then we can pull them out for Charlie and Liz to answer. If you have anything burning, do tap that in there. I'll just pull out some questions from the previous webinar in case it's helpful for attendees today, Charlie. If you could just talk a little bit about the consultation period and who else is being involved. Obviously, this is particularly targeted at businesses and organisations, but who else are you consulting with, and what are the timescales around that?
Yep. So we've consulted with a range of different groups. So as I said, predominantly due to the nature of this, we are mainly going for like a landowning group. But we've consulted with parish councils, a lot of farmers, land agents. I'm having a moment here. We've looked at reaching out to public health as well. Then other like landowning bodies within the council as well, along with our steering group as well, which comprises of the Wildlife Trust, the CLA, the areas of outstanding natural beauty within the county, and sorry, I'm having a moment.
Should I come in a minute, Charlie?
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So, I mean, we want to engage with all sectors of the community. It's really important for us to kind of reach out to everyone that might have that might own land and have an opportunity to do good for nature on their land. So there will be corridors that we identify that are within the key corridors, and we will provide suggestions as to what can be undertaken. But I think even for business and commerce that may have smaller areas of land, we will also be incorporating suggestions as to what maybe you can consider on those smaller patches of land to kind of consider nature. So it may be just considering changing from amenity grass to wildflower meadow, or some scrub planting, or increase some tree canopy coverage. And obviously we're looking at nature recovery, and we're also looking at wider benefits as well. So where there might be opportunity to improve natural flood management or kind of reduce heat islands by having the tree canopy coverage in urban areas. So yeah, it's not just those kind of larger landowners, which is why we're reaching out today to the business and commerce. I can see questions flashing up. I spotted one on Wales, how we're linking up with Wales, and I think that is a good question, because obviously Wales have devolved powers, and so their legislation is slightly different to our own. They don't have the same requirements around local nature recovery strategy, but they do actually have a similar requirement to kind of work on nature recovery and develop these corridors. So we do actually, because of our work on the rivers, have very good connections with Powys, Monmouthshire, and so we link up with them and let them know what we are doing on our work on nature recovery and share that knowledge. And our hope, I think, is to get to a point where we can share some of the mapping data as well, so we can actually see how the connections could link up. I think that's the primary ambition, is to have corridors that link across the countries, because obviously nature doesn't really respect administrative boundaries. So yeah. Feel free
Brilliant.
to drop in some more questions, Rosie.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a question I think that's probably on a lot of people's minds. And if they do have that land that is viable for nature recovery, is there likely to be grant money to facilitate the changes? I know that's a difficult one to answer at the moment, but if you could touch on it.
Yes. So do you want to do this, Charlie, or shall I?
Go ahead.
Okay, great. So the current mechanism that's kind of in progress is Biodiversity Net Gain. So that is through the planning system. Obviously, developers are required to deliver 10% enhancement on biodiversity on their development sites, and landowners can create habitat banks for where developers can't deliver on site. And so if your habitat bank is within an identified corridor, that's where you kind of get that BNG uplift. We anticipate that there will be further opportunities coming forward through environmental land management schemes. We have kind of attended some sessions with Natural England, who've indicated that it's likely to be funding opportunities around traditional orchards and also riparian corridors along watercourses, which are both really important for us in Herefordshire. I suspect there will be further grant funding coming forward as well, and I think there's also an opportunity for us to consider how private investment could play into delivering these key corridors. But I think whilst we're awaiting some of the guidance on the ELM schemes, it's difficult for us to give any more information at this point in time. But I think we recognise that the incentives for for people to take up this nature recovery work is a key part of this. So we will, when we have further information, we will publish this on our webpage as well to support that.
Brilliant, thanks, Liz. And we did have a question about just opportunities to meet face to face, but if you could talk maybe about other opportunities to submit feedback, both in hard copy and any other opportunities there might be to join and consult with you or the team.
Our resource is really limited, and I think that's why I said it at the start of the meeting. It's essentially Charlie, and myself and Emma providing a bit of support. So that's why we are trying to reach out via online meetings, because we can kind of get a broad as base as we possibly can. I think at this point in time, we're really keen to get the mapping moving forward and the strategy drafted with the priorities and measures. I think if we do develop some capacity, and I'm trying actually to kind of recruit a bit of additional support, then we will offer that more kind of in-person meetings and face-to-face opportunities. But as you can imagine, there are lots of groups that, parish town councils are all keen to do the same. And as much as we'd love to, it's a balance between the engagement and the delivery of the work itself.
Thanks, Liz. Yeah, brilliant. We do have a question that we have from James about how the LNRS will relate to DEFRA's land use framework consultation. Is there a crossover there, and the implementation of the CCC 7th carbon budget? Is there anything you can say about that at all?
Shall I take this one, Charlie?
Yeah, please do.
So the land use consultation, I have just done feedback to DEFRA, and obviously that kind of picks up on the various requirements or tensions around land use, shall we say? So nature recovery, growth, housing growth and infrastructure, and also food production. So so I've provided a response to DEFRA from the perspective of nature recovery and nutrients, and that's fed into our forward plans team, who are providing a response around housing growth. The advice that we have been given from Natural England is that where we are considering these key ecological corridors, we also need to consider the wider benefits. So, we are looking at natural flood management. We will be looking at air quality, public access, etc., and carbon sequestration as one of those. Happy to pick up any more detail with James.
Brilliant, thank you. That's all we've got from the chat at the moment. And again, folks, if you do have any questions, please do pop them through. I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about the timelines and any key dates, or if there are any hard deadlines for the feedback that we're asking for. I know you covered it already briefly, but just to reiterate, that would be great.
Yeah, of course. So we're aiming for for our feedback to be done, to have received most of the feedback by the end of April, early May, as we're looking to, when we come to fully reassessing the mapping, we want as much of that data to be sorted as possible, and we're aiming for that time frame to take place, sort of. It's a little bit unknown, but around the June sort of period. So we want to be able to go through as much of the feedback that we receive throughout May, make sure we've got it all sorted. And if we do need to go back to anyone, that we do have that time to be able to ensure the data is correct, and that we can then include it. Excuse me. The other key dates to bear in mind is that once we've got our mapping sorted, it'll go to Natural England for consultation, and then it'll enter a period of public consultation. So we're looking for this to take place over the summer. No firm dates as to exactly when it'll happen, but that'll be for the LNRS as a whole, for people to be able to provide feedback on, as opposed to just the mapping that we're doing at the moment. And then it'll look to go to publication towards the right at the end of the year.
Brilliant, thank you. Any other questions, folks? Please just pop them in. We've got plenty of time left to answer those questions, so do use that time. Do ask them as they come into you. I'll just have another look again at the past questions, see if there's anything relevant that I can pull out for everyone. Got a question coming in from in the chat through a school, and asking what if there would be any particular benefits for schools, as they have some rural and some urban areas.
As in for them to be involved within the LNRS.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to clarify. Yes, thanks. Kelly says yes. Yes, in terms of being involved.
Okay. Yeah. So with the LNRS, we're aiming to boost nature recovery within the county. That is a general, just a great thing for the county as a whole. School specifically, again, as Liz said, that if there were areas mapped within your land, that you could then look at creating habitat banks that could be then potentially used for potential education sources, and then get the BNG uplift. And it is a nice functioning part to help assist that building up those corridors as well. I hope, yeah, that's answered the question.
Great, thanks, Charlie. I noticed that you're just typing in the chat there, Liz, potentially in response to the question or the comment that's just come in. But in answering that, I wonder if you could talk about why or how the decisions have been made in terms of highlighting the areas that could be beneficial for nature recovery and the strategy behind those areas that have been identified.
Yes, so I'm going to start with my very basic level description, and Charlie will come in with any more detailed information. So essentially, we had some criteria from DEFRA that set out what we must include in our baseline map. So this was for the most part designated sites, priority habitats and so on. So places like the national landscapes or triple SIs. So that was our base layer. And then Gloucestershire Wildlife Trust did a piece for us which looked at movement of different types of wildlife and buffers around these different types of habitats to see where there could be opportunity to join up these and connect these habitats. And and that's provided the opportunities map. And now there are a variety of different types of habitats that they've looked at and the species movement between them, but we've simplified it down to woodland, open and wetland. So it's woodland, wetlands, self-explanatory, and open tends to be the grasslands. And what at the moment, that's why it's kind of looking quite dotted around, because, for example, we have lots of little dots of woodland planting that exist. So what we're trying to do is create these key corridors and look at what is there currently and how we build those connections. So having looked at this as a team, we can see, there's a spine along the centre of Herefordshire, where along the River Wye, River Lug, and then we can see lots of opportunity around the west with the Black Mountains, where there's lots of natural areas already, and we can see how we can build connections to link these areas up. And then you can see over to the east the Malvern Hills, you can see the Woolhope Dome, and so it's just essentially looking at where we're rich in nature already, but looking at perhaps, say, in the lowlands in the central area where it's essentially farm production, well, how can we provide those connections? How can we actually interlink them so that we don't end up with a sparse area in the central area of Herefordshire? Charlie, do you want to give any more technical information around that I'm just unable to touch on?
Yep. So the other sort of element is when the mapping was generated, the knowledge that the land is being used for other things, that it has other priorities, was taken into account. So one of the key areas with that is that particularly high grade farmland was given a lower score, or like not necessarily disincentivized, but it would have to be of a particularly high importance or priority opportunity for nature recovery for it to go onto those grade 1 or 2 excuse me, areas of farmland. So in the mapping in those areas, there are large spaces of white space to represent that, and equally any areas of important historic heritage, especially where areas near where that have potential for woodland opportunity. Those were also given a much lower score to try and preserve those areas. Again, recognizing that land has importance outside of nature recovery, and to further reflect that. So then, when it also means that when we come to doing our looking at those corridors again, we know that if there are areas that we could do with linking up, we then also have that evidence base as well of thinking, okay, these areas that are being used for something else, then trying to weigh up using the data of how important is it to get a corridor going through here, or is this a different route we could take to try and maintain what the land is, make sure the land is being used in the best possible way.
Great, thank you, Charlie. Sorry, could I just ask you if you can add on to that, or can you explain how that might feed into the limitation of bringing that 53%, which is currently covered by the map, down to that around 40, which is required by DEFRA? Is that also going to feed into that decision-making process?
Yes. So as it currently stands, so this is work that we're doing quite a lot at the moment, is figuring out how it's all going to feed together. So what we're currently thinking is that from looking at the map that we have online, it is predominantly done from high and medium priority. As I said earlier, that keeps us at around 58%. To get it down to 48%, what we're looking at doing is probably actually taking out the medium layer, and then having so that we've got just the high priority, but then using areas of the medium priority to be able to give us an idea of where those corridors are going to be, and using that layer more for the corridors, as opposed to just being the general opportunity layer that it currently is, to try and get us to around that 40%.
Great, thank you. I think I came in just ahead of you then, Liz. Were you going to come in at all?
I was just going to follow up on the end of the earlier question, which was just to say that this isn't a mandatory requirement. It is something that landowners can opt into. So there is there's kind of no element of it that it's being forced upon people. I think it's a case of you can participate in it. You can look at it from how your land might play into a more strategic role on delivering nature recovery. And I think the indications that we can see from kind of working through documents like the land use consultation, it's likely that there will be funding and incentives coming forward from government in the future to support nature recovery. So it's a I suppose our suggestion would be to opt in now, to become involved now, so that actually you can kind of guide the process and hopefully benefit from it in the future.
Great, thank you. And we have a question from Lucy about whether the mapping distinguishes between ancient woodland and newly planted forestry.
So ancient woodland has been included as one of the key designated sites from DEFRA. So it's within the baseline map. So that purple map that I initially showed, that was then used to create some of sort of the opportunity layers. Newer woodland, either it probably won't be unless it's within a separate site, such as a wildlife site or another area of national designation, might not be included because it may not have that area. However, it may have been included, might be caught within the the opportunity layers. So again, there will and as there will be measures relating to not just new growth, but also the maintenance of existing woodland or existing habitats. It will most likely still be captured, but unless it's within one of those triple SI sites, for example, it's less likely to be. There is a difference, but I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Just gonna leave a couple more minutes in case there's any more questions to come in. I realise we're a few minutes early, but we haven't had any additional questions in the last 5 minutes. So please do put your questions in, folks, if you have anything, or if there's anything further, either Charlie or Liz you want to elaborate on, then maybe we can use this time. But otherwise, just to reassure everybody that the slides and the recording will be circulated, and please feel free to also then circulate that further if you think there are others that might benefit from the knowledge that we're trying to share here, or that might be able to contribute to the feedback on the map. Is there anything further you wanted to elaborate on, Liz or Charlie, to just use this time, or?
One thing, I don't know if we mentioned that we do issue a newsletter. So if you would like to participate in that, then please do email the Nature Recovery. I think we've got the email address there, and say that you'd be keen to participate, and then we will add you to the mailing list. And obviously our updates are all on the local nature recovery strategy webpage. And yeah, perhaps we can also issue some further updates just on progress via via Nadine and her team.
Yep.
Brilliant.
And yet, the only thing for me was that, as I said, this is our initial first draft of the map. As I said, we are still making plans of how we're going to amend it. So if you do, and please do provide feedback, but please do bear in mind that this is our first draft. We are looking for as much feedback as possible relating to that. So we are aware there are some holes, and your feedback is exactly what we need in order to be able to get those holes filled in.
Fantastic. Brilliant. In the absence of any more questions coming in, I think we'll start to close the webinar there. But thank you, Liz, and thank you, Charlie, for your time. But also thank you, everybody, for attending today and for putting your questions in. It's been great to have you here and to have you able to ask your questions. So we'll leave it there for today. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Rosie, I think we can probably take those out.
Yeah, fantastic.
Have we stopped the recording as well?
Thank you. No, I will do that now.